So 2 years ago, we were all stuck in COVID and that was a pretty bad situation for majority of us. We couldn't leave the house and many people lost their jobs. But on the flip side of it, this is where we realized that some of our jobs can be done from the comforts of our home and we treasured family time at home more and more, or at least I did. So this is kind of why it started me on my own personal finance journey, because I realized that I could be doing something that I really enjoy with the time that I have. But to have that kind of time is kind of like a blessing, because you need to have a remote job that pays you pretty well, which gives you additional time with your family, and that you can spend time with them and your loved ones, and at the same time you got to enjoy your job as well. Otherwise it's gonna be a long, torturous journey for you.
It has been torturous for me.
And on the flip side, the other way to achieve that kind of freedom is to be time rich, which is to have streams of passive income that pays you enough that you do not require a job. Or if you strike the lottery with a mega windfall. But since winning a lottery is highly unlikely to happen to most of us, the next smartest thing to do is to invest and start building some sources of passive income. So when we start investing, we always have a goal in mind that we want to achieve $1 million of portfolio or whatever that goal might be, but we don't see how unrealistic that goal could be.
$1 million.
So we are starting out at ground zero and looking at $1 million, and definitely this is the most impossible thing to reach at that point of time. So back in 2020, I started a small investor's portfolio hoping to achieve $1 million as well. But soon after it died off because I realized that I was investing a little bit too aggressively. So the last update to that portfolio was in May 2021, with the portfolio standing at roughly $3,000. But today the portfolio has grown almost 7 times at about $22,000, and this includes my US stocks, my profits for some options, my Singapore stocks as well. And I have also added a bond segment to my portfolio, which brings my investment up to almost $30,000+. So the main point here is to be consistently investing. So I've been doing that since the beginning of 2021 and all the way to September 2022. And over the span of 21 months, my investments might be in the red right now, but when the market picks up again, it will definitely show me some gains. And through these 21 months, I've unknowingly picked up a habit of investing, and I do it on a monthly basis, which is a good way to start building a portfolio. So one of the biggest reasons to start investing early is to take advantage of compounding interest. So you have heard this many times and many people have said it, but then nobody has the habit.
For heaven's sake, why does everyone keep nagging and nagging?
But the fact of the matter is that with compounding interest, you stand to gain a lot more over time. So for example, if you're using a broker like Trade, which I highly recommend for beginners because of their fractional share system. So this video is not sponsored by Trade, but if you want, there's a link in the description down below where you guys can get started with that. So as a beginner, you can purchase as little as $100 worth of Apple shares, which is a good starting point for someone who's looking to get started. So you might be confused right now, like, wait a second.
Apple's $150. How can I buy $100 worth of it?
So on Trade, by purchasing $100 worth of Apple shares, you'll get like 0.67 Apple shares. And if you do that consistently every single month, you'll start accumulating Apple shares unknowingly, which pays you a small dividend every quarter of roughly 0.6% or 23 cents. But this is where the fun part comes in. So when you receive a dividend, it goes back into your purchasing power or your wallet, which then you can use to purchase shares as well. And because of all these fractional shares, you can fully utilize your money every single month to ensure that you compound your money as much as possible. And right now, imagine that if you're doing this consistently over time, you'll start growing your portfolio, and ultimately this portfolio will one day become worth a lot more. So now you'll be asking, what is the angle of investing then? So depending on what your angle is like in life, a portfolio can help you cushion larger purchases in the future. So for example, I'm getting my flat in the next couple of months, and if I do need some extra money, taking profits from my previous stocks purchases could be something I can consider doing. But maybe your end goal is to have a consistent dividend income coming in every single month. And with a large enough portfolio, you can definitely get some pretty decent money coming in each month. So right now, I do hold a few dividend paying stocks which consistently pay me either on a monthly basis, quarterly basis, or a biannual basis. And once in a while, having these dividends come in can be quite a nice thing to have. So like for example, last month in August, I got about $124 in dividends because there's quite a lot of companies paying out dividends in that month of August, and this money will then be reinvested back into the stocks that I'm looking at. So the dividend might not look like a lot for a $22,000 account, but I'll be roughly getting $600 of dividends every single year, which is pretty okay. But if you think about it, it's almost like free money that is reinvested back to get more money, and by reinvesting my dividends back, this will give me more money in 2023.
That's literally an infinite amount of money.
So now let's talk about how you can start building your own dividend income stream as well. So everything starts with a plan, and a realistic plan that you need to come up with. So this can be a target amount to receive in dividends in a month, or an angle, or a number, or a X amount by X age. And from there, we can work backwards to check if our plan is realistic. So for example, if you want to have $50 of dividends every single month, this is totally doable, and by working backwards, $50 a month means roughly $600 a year. So let's base it off a dividend rate of roughly 4%, which is pretty conservative. And this would mean that you need to invest roughly $15,000 to get $50 of dividends every single month. So once you have a set amount, the next thing you need to do is to set a timeline, which is really important because what a timeline does is to hold us accountable for what we do.
Somebody around here is going to be accountable.
And without a timeline, we'll just push it further and further behind, which ends up becoming procrastination. So let's say you're looking to achieve this goal of $15,000 of investment within the next 1 year, which means that you have to invest roughly $1,200 every single month for 12 months. Then now you got to ask yourself if this is something that you can afford. So think about it this way, investing $1,200 of your money is a pretty huge chunk of cash. And if you use the 50-30-20 rule, where we invest 20% of our salary, this means that you need to have an income of at least $6,000 to comfortably invest and not end up making your life miserable. So if that is not possible, then something to consider is to set a smaller target and slowly chip away at it. So the start will always be tough and uncomfortable and probably very annoying as well, but once you start receiving your dividend, hopefully it gives you some motivation to keep that habit growing and grow that dividend income stream. And last but not least is where to get started. So there are many different brokers available and each of them got their own pros and cons. Some has higher fees, some has lower fees, some have options, some doesn't have options, and some only support overseas market and some support both kinds of market. So for me, I'm using SafeTrade and TigerBrokers, and I'm not sponsored by any of these exchanges, but I do use these brokers for different purposes. TigerBrokers is where I hold majority of my stocks, and I do want to hold more stocks there and accumulate more so that we can do some options tradings in the future. So on SafeTrade, I'm mainly building a dividend portfolio with some US ETFs, and hopefully this will pay off in the long run. So I prefer holding my dividend stuff on SafeTrade because of the fractional share functions, which I think is super amazing right now. Because let's say if I want to invest $500 every month to purchase VOO, on TigerBrokers I will have to purchase a minimum of 1 share, which can be $520 or $550 Sing. But on SafeTrade, I'm able to purchase 500 Sing dollars worth of VOO and it will be fractionalized for me. So if the price of VOO is down, I get 1 point something VOO. If not, I get 0 point something VOO, which is pretty awesome. So this brings us to the end of today's video. Do let me know what dividend stocks you guys are looking at, or what's your favorite dividend stock? Let me know in the comments down below. So if you haven't, I'll greatly appreciate if you give a thumbs up to this video, subscribe, turn on the notifications if you haven't, and you can check out the links for SafeTrade in the description down below. And as always, stay safe, invest safe, and I'll see you in the next one.